Eric Estevez, welcome to the show. I appreciate you. How's everything going? You're also a lender, just like me, and an entrepreneur. I appreciate your time. I think you can provide a lot of value to our listeners here. Uh, Reading your bio here, you're a hustler. You resonate a lot of stuff that I'm doing right now, and I'm super excited to have you on, my friend.
Sidra, thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you, brother. So tell us a little. I mean, I kind of gave it away that you're a lender, but tell us a little what do you do and how you got started, what motivates you, and what makes you like wake up and crush the day every day.
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I think just like you, Sidra, I think we're much more than lenders, right? I think we're business owners. And for 14 years, I was in the retail space, right? In the retail leadership space. And I led teams for Fortune 50 companies. And, I had 300 to 500 people that reported to me at any given time. And I did very well. I was the top of the, food chain and, making really good money, making bonuses and whatnot. But I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? And I think, luckily as I worked my way up in that environment, I was able to take some risks, and I wrote a book with my wife, right, about my dog Chacho, which we're developing a series for that book. It was one of our first entrepreneurial ventures. Then I started, flipping apps, right? I was like, I want to do something, I got bought skins and apps, got a developer and just flipped it and sold it. But then I started investing in real estate passively, and I just fell in love. I started working with someone who was flipping a lot of houses at a time in New York, and saw the process and learned about hard money. I've been fortunate that my father actually has been a lender for a long time, but he was a one-man team, Cedric, right? So I kind of had that in me, and I knew about real estate, and I wanted to invest. And I went and I flipped that house. I bought a nice house and added a level in a beautiful neighborhood. And I was I was thinking about those things all the time, even while I was at my 9 to 5. So you will, right? So one day I just told my boss, I don't think I can do this anymore. Tell me how much time do you need to replace me? And I think I gave her like a 3 month notice.
Wow.
So we can hire and replace, because I knew I wanted to become an entrepreneur. And at that point, Cedric, I didn't know that I was going to land in the lending field. I just knew I wanted to do something with real estate. And here we are, right? One day I decided to get my license, and I said, you know what? My father has some skills in learning how to put a loan together, but I have the people building skills, I have the process building skills. And 5 years ago, we started rocking and rolling, and we did $100 million in volume last year, and streamlined processes. And what I've learned is that we can duplicate this with other businesses, right? So we have
True.
a skill set and the experience that now we can say, okay, we can continue growing our mortgage in the business, right? But now we can say, you know what else can we do now? And that's where we're at. We want to continue growing the mortgage industry. That's what caused me to continue to try other things. But I just want to continue to build businesses. We were talking about Gary Vee earlier, and I love the fact that he has his hands in different things, and I think I'm multifaceted like that.
Yeah. And it's not always about being successful at everything. I mean, we want to. Obviously, our nature wants us to be successful, but it's what you learn along the way. And full well you're probably gonna fail at many things, but those experiences are what makes you do better things in the future. And I mean, talk to me about lending a little bit, but you said within 4 or 5 years you build a team and you closed 100 million last year.
Yeah, we did. So
Huge.
yeah,
Break
so
that
yeah,
down. how
yeah.
how many people?
Oh, well, honestly, the majority of the business was just me and my partner, right? So what I did was we joined. we joined forces a couple years ago. I started in a small correspondent lender, and he was a branch manager there, and we were doing things together. And we realized, you know what, let's leverage our resources together, right? And we started doing that, and we moved to our current company, about 2.5 years ago. And yeah, we built a team. So him and I are 80% of the production, right? We have, my father still works for us, and I have a couple of other loan officers, but we still are producing branch managers. But the fact is that we built a nice business because we were able to hire assistants, and we were able to hire processors and virtual. I started a virtual assistant company, right? So because we realized that we have to leverage that time. So
Hmm.
the cool thing is that we've been able to grow rapidly because we had some good people, which is honestly, if you're going to grow a business, you have to have good people around you. And we were able to build some good processes as well.
That's huge. Hey, listen, 2022. Did you mean 100 million in 21 or 22?
No, no. So 21, we finished 100 million. 22, we finished with a 30% reduction. We were at 70 million.
Which is not bad. Which is
Yeah.
not big because I
Yeah,
know many lenders um around here, they did 70, 80% less
yeah,
because all, 70%, 80% of their business in 21 was refinances.
correct.
And yeah, I was talking with my partner Steve as well the other day, and same thing. We were looking at some numbers at how our competition did last year, and
Yeah,
it's scary, right? And here you are, guys like you. It's like, well, I'm gonna take some market share. I mean, I had a reduction in business too. I mean, personally, I closed 24 million in 21, and
great,
then I closed almost 18 last year. But
great.
majority of those were purchases,
Yep,
which they're gonna translate into refis down the road. But
correct.
it goes to show you're doing the right things, hiring a sales assistant. Like you can't be in all places at all times, right? I mean, you can only do so much, right?
Yeah, you have to, you have to know what you're good at. And our job in this business is to ABC, right? Always be connecting. And when you find yourself doing a $15 an hour, $20 an hour job, then you're not doing what we're supposed to be doing and bringing the business in and connecting and developing those relationships, right? So we knew that early on, and I think that you hit the nail right on the head with purchases. We're one of the top purchase branches in the company, and we're a nationwide company, and we've always been focused on that, right? I think what our mind frame has been, that refinances are the icing on the cake, right?
Yep.
Maybe we might see one or two more booms until we retire, right? But right now we're focusing on, hey, how can we continue to build that purchase pipeline?
I agree. I agree. So what's one thing that you're gonna attribute your success to? Like, what is one trait or even an action that you've been doing these last 4 or 5 years that has led you to this massive success in the past couple of years? Because obviously it starts from somewhere, right?
Yeah, yeah. You know what? Even though I've been in the mortgage industry for 5 years now, Sidrit, right? I have 14 years of leadership experience, right? And that has translated into the mortgage world, right? Once the first couple of years where you really had to just learn guidelines and how to put things together, right? You're able to say, okay, well, now that I get it, now that I can, be in the weeds and be able to handle a loan, let me go ahead and make sure that now I start to leverage myself with my team and technology, right? And I think that one of the things that I'm actually going to be teaching my company tomorrow, nationwide. We're going to be, several hundred LOs that are going to be part of this call. And we're going to be talking about, planning and strategizing. And I think that's something that I'm really good at. I think, in the beginning of the year, I always have clearly defined goals. And I think, and I go around and I teach real estate offices is, and this is one of my value propositions as well, is, hey, let me go teach some agents on how to be more planful, right? How to track your time. And one of the things is that I set my goal, and then you reverse engineer those goals, right? Into, hey, this is how much money I want to earn, or how many families I want to help, right? And what does that translate on a monthly, on a weekly, on a daily basis? And that's the trick, right? Once you know what you have to do on a daily basis, and are you holding yourself accountable? And I was holding myself accountable to say, hey, I'm supposed to get 3 leads a day, 20 leads a day, whatever it is. And it's a Wednesday and I haven't gotten that yet. What am
Yep.
I doing? How do I have to pivot? Because people wait till the quarter, to the end of the year. And at that point, it's too late. So if you start now, we're in January 10th, right? If you start now and really hold yourself accountable on a daily basis from that reverse engineering plan that you've given yourself, you're going to be able to reach your goals.
100%. And for those of you that are in the mortgage industry, anything you're closing now is the result of what you did 90 days ago. So if you're picking up the phone, calling agents, any other partners that you deal with, clients, prospects, likely in 60 to 90 days, that's what's going to translate into like closed business. And I'm going to say it's probably the same for realtors, right? So when business started going down a few months, I mean, not a few months, I would say 6 months ago, more than 6 months ago now, people were like, you know what? It's summertime. Let me relax. Times are going to get better. They kind of like slacked on activities. And I know people that they haven't closed the deal in a few months.
Yeah.
Why? Because they slacked for a couple of months, or they did take 2 weeks vacation, or they went to Europe, right? Because they had an empty pipeline. And it's unfortunate, but it goes to show, it's like your whatever goal you set yourself, that's what it translates into. And you got to have clearly defined goals. Even if it's like super super simple, like, I want to close $10 million a year. What does it mean? It means I'm going to make 10 calls a day. If you're into calling, if you're into a business that makes calls, it doesn't have to be complicated. And I think that's what most people fear. It's like they make things super complicated. They make like these, color coded goals, and like, I gotta attain this to attain that. No, it doesn't have to be that difficult. And I'm sure the easier you make it for yourself and your team, I think the easier it is to translate into more success. Sorry.
I agree. And I think that once you pick those activities, Sidra, I think a lot of professionals in our world, they don't have consistency. So if you're gonna say you're gonna show up to one event a week, right? Which is whether it's a trade organization event, right, in your community, whether it's an open house that you're gonna go to, right? Um, do it. You got to do that for 90 days, 6 months, right? And people give up too easily when they start doing things, and after a few weeks they feel like, man, I'm not getting any results. You have to realize this is a relationship game, and it takes months and years in some cases. So you have to stay the course and be consistent. So whatever activities, and I agree with what you said, it has to be simple, but stick to it, right? And after you've been doing it for 3 months, for 6 months, you can start to measure some of the ROI. And I think people give up on those activities way too quickly.
100%. So you mentioned you go out there on you talk to realtors, you do presentations in front of realtors. Are those actually in person or through Zooms or a combination of both?
Yeah, it's a hybrid. So, when I first started in this business, I was on the street all the time, right? I remember my second year doing this. I think from January to March, there was one time that I did 17, home buying seminars, and I've really grown my brand, and we've grown our business through education, right? We're on Spanish channel television every Sunday morning, educating the community. And the beginning of the year, we like to do these, at the end of the year, we like to do these these planning seminars with people, right? Because I think it's something that's very important. Beginning of the year, we want to continue educating the community. I have five first time home buying seminars slash webinars already scheduled on the books. This is a way too that when we're meeting new realtors or new brokerages or new teams, I add value by saying, hey, I have a cookie cutter presentation. I think it'll be great for you to add value in the community. We can post it on social media, and also we can brand ourselves as educators. And who's going to say no to that, right? So it's a way that you can
Exactly.
add value for free or relatively cheap. So we are educators now. I also look at my time, and I try to control my time, and I try to do as many things online as possible, right? But I think in some cases, if I'm going to go ahead and do a first time home buying seminar at a church, right? You can get 50 people if you go to the community, right? And you work with the pastor, right? And you're promoting this for a few weeks, and churches are a great way to go ahead and educate the community, right? So I think now in the beginning of the year when we're not busy, and I know this market's it's different than we've been used to, but even in the normal cycle of real estate, the first quarter we should be out there educating people about first time home buying because, right, people are filing their taxes. People have this on their vision board, right? Everybody's pumped up. This is on their goal, right, for 2023. So you have to be known as an educator of the one that's going to go ahead and be the expert, right, that advisor to the community.
That's so good, brother. I mean, especially, by spring market, March, April, you now have a pipeline that's full, and that will probably determine the rest of the year for you. So,
Correct. And the bigger your pipeline, right? So now when I have a few loan officers that I'm developing and I'm working with, and I tell them, hey, listen, I know right now the contracts aren't as plentiful as they were right in the past, but we have to measure our success with our activity, not necessarily with sales contracts, right?
mhm,
So our activity is how we have to measure our success. At the end of the week, how many people did I educate? How many people did I connect with, right? Because if we do this for 3 months, for 6 months, right, and if inflation continues to come down and if rates come down a little bit, right, by the summertime there might be an uptick, and now we can benefit from everything we've been doing for the first half of the year.
100%, 100%. How are you building relationships with new realtors or new referral partners? What is that like? Is it the presentation, hey, let me come to your office, talk to all of your agents and let you know what's happening in the market right now, or hey, I can do things differently than the other lender or the lender you're working with? What is that? How are you getting these appointments and creating these new relationships?
That's a great question, right? I do twofold. So I mentioned that I do have a team of virtual assistants. And I have a virtual assistant that basically I tell them what zip codes to hit and even other states that I'm licensed in. And all they're doing, Sidrid, is calling realtors and saying, hey, we'd love to have just a quick meet and greet with Eric. And they pull up their MMI. I know what their production is. So I just had a call right before I jumped on this podcast with someone right in New Jersey. And I knew that person's volume already, right? I knew where they worked, right? So, and now they also give me what their Facebook link is, if there is one. So now I'm able to go ahead and research and Facebook stalk this person, right? Before I talk to them. So then that way, when we have that initial conversation, I'm shutting up most of the time, right? It's Rick Ruby in the Core Four, right? Talk about frogging, right? You talk about family, relationships, occupations, goals, and you're asking questions about that realtor. And quite honestly, the value proposition is really quick at the end to say, hey, the conversation goes like this: I'm not here to take away from the relationship that you've been building with other lenders. I respect that. I'm a lender myself, right? I want to build relationships with people. My job is to add value and see if we can add more business to your pipeline, right? And here's how we can potentially do it, whether it's educational events, whether it's doing, using social media, right? I use social media a lot. Let's do Facebook Lives together, right? Let's go ahead and make sure we're doing things together every Friday. Let's do a quick 15-minute Facebook Live. And now now you are branding yourself as an educator. All these realtors are being told the same thing, leverage social media. So how can I use what I'm good at to help them, right? So those are the things that I tell them. I say, hey, I'd say, hey, this is what is working. One of the things, Sidrit, that is also working now, I have MSAs with some brokerages, right? And we're doing Zillow leads and Realtor.com leads or whatever, right? And you have to make sure you continue the relationship and measure the ROI. But one of the relatively cheapest ways to add value right away and add leads right away is Facebook leads, right? So I have an assistant that, excuse me, creates Facebook ads. And if there's a team that I want to work with, I say, hey, let's create new business. Before we start talking about all this ad spend and these MSAs or whatever the case may be, we're going to create a Facebook group together, right? We're going to go ahead and we're going to spend $200, $300, something small. But what that does is they show that I'm our follow up on these leads, right? And Facebook leads are not as ready as a Zillow or Realtor.com lead, right? You got to nurture them a little bit more. But if you get a Facebook lead and their credit score is low, right? I love those individuals because now I'm helping them improve their credit and now they're going to have more loyalty to me. So when they're ready in 6 months or a year, it comes back. We nurture them, right? And the good thing is that I have the team and the processes to allow that nurturing to happen, right? So now, right, we're going back and we're kind of dancing, right, and creating these lead generation. How do we follow up? I'm using WhatsApp groups. We're using email. I have a virtual assistant that follows up with these leads as well. And what happens is that they see the system working, they see the CRM working, and now they start to sending you their own leads and their own people, and you start to develop a relationship. So many times before you even convert one of these Facebook leads, you're converting a lead that they gave you because you're already developing that relationship. So that's a great inexpensive way to start working with some teams and some groups, right? To start expanding your business.
100%. And we all know that, I mean, us, meaning us in the mortgage industry, that you don't have to be the point of contact all the time, right? I mean, hey, it's Jim from Sidrit's team. Hey, it's John from Eric's team. But they'll always remember that you're the point of contact. All you need to do is one lasting impression, and your team can do the rest. That doesn't mean that. I mean, I love, like, in our industry, there no deal is the same. There's, I love getting involved in those deals, but in many cases, a lot of deals are also straightforward, so that do not require your attention. Like, your attention should be in generating more business, talking to more referral partners. And yeah, you're going to have those problem deals. Appraisal comes in lower. You got to talk to listing agent, buyer's agent, whatever it may be, right? But if you have a system in place, which it sounds like you have a terrific system in place, and congrats. I think realtors should have a system in place like you do, not only just lenders. Anyone can, like you can, from what I understand, is you can have virtual assistants from Philippines doing $10 an hour activities for you, and they can measure it, how many calls they made, like, and it's outstanding. Like, I need to implement some of these myself. I recently switched to East West Mortgage, and we're building something great here. I mean, from the ground up. It's a smaller company, 4.5 years in the as a company, but that's our next steps, to build something like that. But congrats.
I think it's so key, right? And I kind of stumbled upon it, Sidrid. One of the first teams that I started working with, right? Was a very successful Remax office where actually the owner has 20 plus offices, right, throughout the East Coast. And one of the things that he did was he actually, hired a staffing agency in the Philippines, and that's how he operates, right? He spends a lot of money on Zillow and those kinds of things, right? But he has a system in place of dozens of these virtual assistants that assist his big teams, right? And it works. And he amazing training, and when he's actually the one that trains these individuals. So I started working with a team leader, and I started paying for one of these. So we said, hey, can we grab one of these people? And I remember waking up at 6 in the morning, being part of the training. And that's the key, right, for these virtual assistants. And the cool thing was that I wasn't even the person that trained them. It was a Remax agent with Remax scripts on these calls and whatnot, right, for both buyers and sellers. So now my team is able to do both. And the cool thing is that I just asked that virtual assistant, do you have a friend? And we train that friend. And then, do you have another friend? Right now I have somebody managing social media. I have somebody managing leads, both buyers and sellers, because I can also talk to a listing agent and say, hey, I can provide this service for you, right? I can help you call these leads and convert some of these listings, right? And when you have a strong listing agent, right, open houses are yours, right? A lot of these buyers that they get from advertising these listings, can be yours as well. So the fact of the matter is that I want to make sure that I'm adding value any which way I can. I even most recently, Sidrit, right, I'm trying to do more content, right? I want to continue more educating content, and I have a videographer. We're shooting content, but what's costly is the editing, right? Because quite honestly, you can get a new iPhone 14 and just go out there and record and have some scripts or whatnot. But what takes time is the editing. So I hired a video editor from the Philippines, right? So now is reducing my cost. So then that way I can create more content and have somebody overnight, right, pumping, doing my video edit, so I can pump out more content more frequently, right? So again, you have to leverage that, right? There's a lot of different ways of doing it. And then one of the things that I wanted to mention, as far as you know, building business with realtors, right, is going back to the system. I think that I'm very open and honest, and I educate them about my process and how we work. And I say, hey, I'm typically the first point of contact, right? If they have anybody that's looking to purchase a property, but then after that, my team takes over, right? As soon as somebody applies online, my team is saying, hey, you applied online, you applied online. Let's go ahead and we need these documents. I tell them I don't paper chase, right? They're doing the pre-approvals, they're running the LP, right? They're making sure that everything is on the money. And then I'm the point of contact. But then what happens is that when we're under contract, I have a 10 to 15 minute conversation, typically with a new realtor if I've never worked with them. So we can talk about expectations, what's gonna happen. So then that way they know how I work. And now what happens is I'm also educating my realtors on how we work. So that way they're not calling me and they're calling my team. And that frees me up now, right? I'm a 5 a.m.er, right? I've always been an early morning riser. I eat the frog first thing in the morning. Anything that's hard, anything that requires a lot of brain function activity, I do right away. The cool thing though is once my team is in, they do everything, and it frees me up the rest of the day to move about freely and to talk to as many people as possible, right? So the cool thing is that I'm not glued to my desk. My laptop is closed by 9 in the morning most of the time, right? Because my team handles most of the stuff. And then whenever we come across something that they can handle, we learn together so they can handle it in the future, right?
I love it. So if you can share what your team is composed of here in the US and what the sales assistants or these virtual assistants are in the Philippines. And I would be curious to know how much it's costing you per month for these virtual assistants, just so our audience can have an idea of the cost.
Yeah, no, absolutely. First as a branch manager, right? And again, this is Rick Ruby, Core 4. I was a student of his, my first year in this business. It's all mathematical, right? If you have 15 loans in the pipeline, you want to have an assistant to help you with that, right? If you have 30 loans, you want to have two assistants and a processor to help you with that, right? So it's all mathematical. Obviously, the more experience they have, they may be able to handle more or at least more responsibilities, right? But it's been simple like that, right? And it hasn't failed because as I was getting there, I was like, okay, it's time to hire somebody else. Do not be afraid to hire, because that person that you're going to hire is going to take you away from that $15 an hour job, right? You know, a $20 an hour job that if you have an assistant in your office that you're paying, it's going to take you away to go ahead and do a job that's worth hundreds of dollars an hour, right? Now, going back to virtual assistants, right? Depending on what the skill set you need, right? When I first started with my first virtual assistant, I was paying her $3 an hour, Cedric. $3 an hour. Right now, she's at $6 an hour because she's been with me for 3 years, and she helps me train everybody else. So she's doubled her income. But then I have virtual assistants at $3 an hour that are newer with me. I have my videographer that's $4 an hour, right?
Wow.
So when you do the math, so that's why what I did is I actually started this company, and I actually am outsourcing. So when I have realtors reach out to me or even lenders reach out to me, I say I have a team. I have 30 resumes right now of other virtual assistants that are ready to join the team. That as people sign up to our company, right, my auxiliary company, right, we just go ahead and hire them and train them, and they're ready to go. Right. And the cool thing is that we have the infrastructure to train more and more people, and we're able to expand. And we want to get to 300 clients, right? By the end of 2025 is the goal. So that way, what it is now we're going to provide a service where instead of you having to hire and train, we do that for you.
That's outstanding, man. I think you've kind of unlocked what you need to do next. And I think like you said, you have clearly defined goals, like you want to get to help 300 people, right, by 2025, and this is how you're going to get there. Good for
Yeah,
you.
and now this is just again 300 people just in the virtual assistance world, right? So this is just professionals, business to business, and it doesn't have to be just lending. We starting in real estate because that's what we know, but there's a lot of other professionals, right? Insurance agents, accountants, right? That can use some virtual support. So this is just an auxiliary business that I started because we've been doing it, and as I'm coaching more and more people now, and I'm being asked to speak more, so I'm like, you know what, this can be a viable business, right? I had a meeting with
100%.
I had a meeting with a business partner yesterday, and we want to be a $250 million branch, right? That's our goal.
And lastly, what are your next goals beside what you've already told us? I mean, you're an ambitious guy. You're already doing a lot, if you ask me. But anything else that you haven't shared with us that you got going on next?
Oh man, yeah, you know what? And it's completely left field, Cedric, right? So my daughter is 19 years old, and she's an up and coming music recording artist, and
Congrats.
uh, and I am her manager. So I am learning the ins and outs of the music business. She has 5 singles out, and we just signed a 5-song production deal. And tomorrow
Wow.
we're in New York, and we're doing a photo shoot for her next single releases. And in February, we're going to film the video, her first music video for the one of the next singles that we're going to release. So right now, I'm using these processes and these steps to learn now the music business. And you know what? My day still filled with learning about real estate and mortgages, right? But I'm also reading books about music industry and whatnot, right? So she wants to do this. She's been in arts for her whole life. She was a stage child, so you would, right? She's been signed to a talent agency in New York City, and she's been doing television and commercials and print ad. But now she's dove into the music world. So I'm her music manager, so you will, and I'm learning. So that's exciting because I'm working alongside my daughter as well.
That's huge, man. Congrats to her first, and you for, like pushing her along. Our boy Gary Vee would say, look at NFTs in music are gonna change music. So see if there's anything you can utilize with the NFTs once she gets somewhere. So these like music producers don't eat up all her money, right? Or all her
I'm
profits.
learning, yeah, I'm learning that it takes a lot of money. So you're absolutely right. We got to be resourceful and we got to be innovative.
Yeah. Well, not to promote Gary Vee or anything, but he's got his VCon May 18th through the 20th. If you could make it, I would love to meet you in person. It's been a pleasure to have you on. Hoping we could do this again in the future, and see your future success. I have a lot of like follow-up questions, so
Yeah, man. Listen, yeah, I would love to help. Right. I'm my coaching organization that I'm part of now. I'm part of 2020 Vision for Success with Christine Beckwith, she helped build Annie Mac, right, for many years, and now she's coaching me not only to become a better mortgage professional, but to be a speaker and I'm working directly with her team now, and she actually knows Gary Vee. She's been on stage with Gary Vee and has spoken alongside him. So I'm utilizing that relationship too to build my platform to continue to educate because I think that through education we can grow any business.
good for you, man. I'm super blessed to have you on here, and wish you nothing but success, good health, happy 2023, and look forward to speaking with you soon.